Hi, this is Jim. We're going to go over the install process for FastTracker 3.5. It's the new version of FastTracker Asset Management System, and it gives us the ability to install on the server side, which would be a Facilis server, hub or TerraBlock server, and also the client side, Windows or OS 10. So quick to start here, let's go ahead and get into the FastTracker 3.5 download, and you'll see here a Windows folder. It contains the FastTracker Windows 3.50 exe, and if I launch that, if I do have a previous version, it will ask me to uninstall it. I'll go through yes there, and then it goes into the standard wizard. I'm going to default through this until it gets to the client only. I'm going to go to server and client because I am installing on the Facilis server in this case. So getting through the rest of these by default, it goes and loads the software. Now it loads the SQL database. It loads tools for it to be able to index, create head frames, create proxy and preview files, and in the meantime I can be doing that on the client side as well, installing that software in the client and making everything connect that way. But we'll see here, this starts up here in a minute. And once it starts up, I'll check to be sure that it's started and running, because I'll be able to open both the admin version of the application and the desktop or the client side version of the application. So going into the start menu here, I'm going to see a couple things under FastTracker, admin and client. So admin is a application window that you see here. It's defaulted as the admin as the user, or if there's no username, just type in admin by default with no password, and you'll come into the administrative area. Now I have lots of stuff going on here. This server had a database previously. I have lots of auto indexes happening here. We can go over that another time, but I'll check too to be sure that the client side is also working. By going into the FastTracker and into the FastTracker client. And FastTracker client will show up as this sort of web tech interface, and it's going to ask you for a user, password, and location. On the server itself, it's localhost because we're looking at the local software service that's running on the server. So we again can use admin here, and we can also go into different user accounts and why you'd have different user accounts in the system. But I can log in directly here, and then I see my catalogs, I see the volumes that have been indexed. If there's nothing here yet, that's probably because it's a newly installed system, and in which case I can show you how to get a quick start into creating a catalog, creating proxy profiles, and all of that to be able to start indexing media. But first let's get over to the client side. So this is my Windows client. Next I'll do OS 10. FastTracker 3.5 on the desktop here. Opens up, and I see my Windows again. Then I see my FastTracker Windows 3.50. Same thing I launched on the server side. So I'll open that up, and it will say uninstall the old version if there is one there, and I'll say next through. This time I'm not going to hit client and server, I'm going to hit client only. And then just basically default through everything. It'll come back to this same installer, but it won't install all of the database that it did with the server. And so it's going to have all the admin functions here on the client side as well, without the database and without the ability to create proxy files and things like that. So closing that up and then going over to my Windows menu once again, I will see here if I scroll down to my FastTracker, there once again is the admin and the client, and going into the admin, I'm able to get in connecting this way, and I got in connecting that way because I had already set the network configuration. Network configuration is the first thing you need to do on the client side because it sets up your server name and IP address to get in contact with the Facilis server that's running FastTracker. If you don't have this, then you'll need this to get access through the FastTracker admin. And same interface shows up here, a couple less tabs because we don't show all the functions when you're not on the server itself. So we can go over that during the admin portion of the video. But closing this up and coming over to the FastTracker once again, and of course I can dock these, make these easy to get to later on if I want to. For example, taking my FastTracker admin, taking my FastTracker client, docking that directly here. So here I come up with this same WebTech window, except this time I see an IP address here instead of localhost, because I'm on the client and I'm not looking locally, I'm looking at the server. That's the server IP address. I can also use the server name if my facility is resolving server names to IP address through DNS. I usually just say IP address is the quickest way to go. So logging in here, I then see once again all my catalogs and all my volumes that have been indexed previously on this. So one last step is getting the Mac installed, then I'll circle back around and show you how to start working with the server and getting catalogs and proxies generated and files indexed. So back over to the Mac workstation here. To the right again, here is my FastTracker 3.5. This time I'm going to go into the Mac, and I'm going to see two files here, Mac admin and Mac client. And these are both just standard zip files, so I'm just going to bring these out to the desktop and unzip these. In doing that, I now have my FastTracker admin, and in doing this, I now have my, or I will soon have my FastTracker client. And I can throw those away. So FastTracker admin, you'll see it's going to look the same as it does on Mac and Windows. Once again, I have my admin, I have my network configuration, which is my server IP address, same one, 219 in this case. And then I'm going to go into connect, and it comes up and shows me everything that I have. Once again, all my auto-indexing, indexing through drag and drop here in this window, all my catalogs that I'm working with, my proxy presets, lots to go over there, but just to show you the install procedure, make sure it's working by opening up the admin, making sure the IP address is correct. FastTracker client, very similar, in fact pretty much the same as what you saw on the Windows side. There's my 219, and I open this up and see there's all my catalogs, there's all my volumes. I can make this a bit larger if you want to zoom it in so you can see what's going on here. And we'll get into sort of what all this is a little bit later. We're just in the install phase right now. So getting back over to the server side, so I can show you sort of a quick start into this. Now, when you first install this, this will be an empty window. You won't see all of these different auto indexes. You won't see all these catalogs. You won't see all these proxy presets. So the first thing you're going to do before you can do anything else is you need to make a catalog. Or you can go straight for the proxy preset and make that first. If you know the indexing you're doing wants to result in a proxy or a preview clip, which means that if you're indexing video and you want it to be either previewed down to a very small bitrate size that you can view through the FastTracker client, then you'll set up a proxy for that here. As you can see here, I have one. It's called preview. It's sent to the previews volume. So I guess even a step before this, you may want to make a previews or a proxy volume on your Facilis system, hub, or TerraBlock to hold the different previews or proxies that you may be working with. In this case, I do have two different volumes. One's called proxy, one's called previews. I also have a cloud volume here as well for our object cloud service. But in this case, the previews volume is being used, and if I want to make a proxy preset, also using this previews volume that I've created for holding all of my preview assets, the preview portions of my index clips, I can make one here. So let's call it demo. I'll decide here whether I want to make the resolution HD, which means if something's coming in as UHD, 4K, HD, SD, I'll make an HD proxy of that, or an HD preview of that. If I choose original, it's going to make whatever resolution proxy that you came in with. So if you came in with a UHD, it's going to make a UHD preview clip. In the case of wanting to keep those small, that might not be the best idea. But in the case of wanting to have a proxy of a lower bit rate, but of the same resolution and a high quality, you can certainly do that. Preview in this case is just for the use of the FastTracker client itself. So you can play back the video with audio, full speed, in the window, not have to worry about the file size. It'll come through the IP network just fine as a preview clip, most of the time as an HD as well. These are lower bitrate proxies or previews. But a preview clip is going to be very easy to hold on to for a long time because it's not going to be very big. And so I can choose my encode speed here. The encode speed and the quality both determine the size of the file in the end. Obviously, if I do a higher quality, it's going to compress the image less, and the file is going to be larger. But also, if I do a faster encode speed, it's going to make the file larger because it's going to take less time to compress the file, in which case it's going to sort of, get everything in that it can and keep the file large. If you do a very slow encode speed, it'll take more time to get through the file, and it will, by virtue of that, be able to make the file smaller. So I just usually do a medium or a fast here to get that done. When I add the preset to my list, it comes up and asks me where you want that proxy or that preview clip to go. And in this case, if I'm on version 7, I'd be going to my C volumes directory on the server, and that's where all of my volumes would live. If I go to the CFS vol, that's version 8. Version 8 volumes all live in the FS vol. And so this is where my proxy and my previews is. And if I want to make a previews area here, you can see here that my previews volume is being used for multiple projects and multiple volumes. But this is how I would create it. I'd highlight a folder here. For example, if I wanted to make a new folder and just call it demo, and select that folder, it would say here that, okay, your demo proxy is going to be encoded fast, it's going to be of medium quality, it's going to be of preview resolution, so it's going to be a 640 frame. It's not going to be usable for editorial necessarily. And then volume previews, path, it's demo. And simple as that. Now if I go to catalogs, first thing I'll need to do, because this area will be blank as well, is I'll need to make a catalog. So once again, making my demo catalog. You can enter a catalog name, enter a catalog description for a demo. The only reason to have a catalog is so that you can just have some place where the records live. You can have 100 catalogs, you can have one. It's up to you. Some of our users will use a global catalog. In fact, a little bit later in the administrative portion of this, I'll show you the global catalog settings to really easily go in there and just say, hey, just get everything into a global catalog and be done with it. I can parse it all out later, which is fine. For now, this demo volume, it shows having 0 assets because I haven't indexed anything into it yet. Active status and comment for demo. Now from here, I see my auto proxy and other presets are empty. So I go into my proxy settings and I choose a preset. Now here's all my presets. This is demo preset that I just made. So I can add that preset, and I can choose whether or not any media that gets indexed into this catalog is automatically generates a preview clip. And by doing that, I just say toggle auto encode. And auto encode on yes, it means that anything that gets indexed is automatically going to be encoded into the demo proxy setting. And you're done. You're done making a catalog and making a proxy or a preview setting for that particular catalog. So going into auto index, I can choose that demo catalog, or going into just general index, I can do that as well. The easiest way to sort of start out is just by indexing something. You're going to index anything that you need into the catalog, things that you might want to test out and see how the proxy generation works, see how you can access it from the FastTracker client and from the FastTracker panel, which I'll show you in a few minutes too, how to get that going on your Adobe systems. But for now, I can just show you direct drag and drop indexing, the simplest thing possible, into this window to start creating assets on your system. So because I'm on the server, I'm going to go into the fsvol or the /volumes directory within the C drive. And let me show you that here. So this is a C fsvol. Fsvol is where all the volumes on the server live. You can also make them have drive letters as well on the server, but just easier to see everything here in case you have more volumes than you have drive letters. I'm going to use the volume CMG. And come in here, and I have a folder called gymnastics, and I'm just going to drag this directly into here. It's a very manual way to index things, but it lets you go through and see what each element is before you add it to the catalog. And that's when I choose the edit insert mode, because I'm editing, prior to ingesting, or into the catalog or indexing to the catalog, so I can choose which I want to do and which I don't. If any of these I want to play these down prior to indexing them into the catalog, I just hit the play button here, and a full screen version of that particular clip comes up, and I can see exactly what's going on there. So from here, I'll go ahead and highlight all of these and just hit Add Selected to Catalog. It's going to go through and generate thumbnails. Whether or not you have a proxy or a preview set, it's going to generate thumbnails. That makes it very quick to get access to that media after it's indexed without having to wait for the proxies to be generated. In the background, the proxies are starting up and they're starting to generate for those clips. But I can go in and see that now in my catalogs, if I hit refresh, now I have 4 assets in my demo catalog. So this gives you a running number of all the assets you have for the particular catalogs that you have. Now if I go into my client and I go to the catalogs demo, and I just say anytime, whatever volumes, and just hit search, I'll see that I have these already here. And I can see any of these. I can hit play on the proxy or the preview clip here and see this play down with audio in real time. Now, any of these are available for me to drag directly out of this view into wherever else I want to go to move, or you can use any of the file movements and the archive, copy, and archiving for file movements here. But that's all things we can get into a little bit later, some of the new features in 3.5. So you've created a catalog, you've created a proxy setting for that catalog, you have gone in and seen the assets that you've indexed, so that's a good first start. Now to the client side, we can do the same thing. Now coming into the FastTracker client on my Windows client, I'll go to that demo catalog, or I can just say leave all catalogs and all volumes, but show me anything that's been indexed in the past 10 minutes. And it comes up here, and there's the clips that I indexed in the past 10 minutes. It goes past 10 minutes, past hour, in the last day, in the last week. Or you can have a custom date range that you can bring up times or days in between which you want to see what assets have been indexed. And so those are all ways that I can see based on the time of index, what's been added here. So if I bring this up here, I can see that I have my preview to play through here. I have the catalogs where this lives. This happens to be also on a different catalog. My global catalog also held this asset beforehand. That's an important thing because I just indexed something into a catalog that had already been indexed. And because of that, I see that there are 2 different locations of this. The CMG volume that I just indexed with the path of gymnastics and the file name, and it tells me that that's an online location, and also stock video. So this is an older stock video piece that's in my stock video volume of the same name in the same folder directory structure, and this tells me that that's the primary. So currently that is the primary version of this clip. All that means is that if someone looks this record up on their desktop, it's going to try and mount the stock volume, the stock video volume, in order to give them access to that. If I want to change this to loading up the CMG volume instead, perhaps because the stock video volume isn't always available, or my CMG volume is my work volume that I want to be using, so I copied the assets into it, and that now lives in a different place, I can just say make primary. And by making the primary here, you'll see something happens when I hit refresh. This goes to a separate path here, CMG gymnastics instead of stock video in gymnastics. Now if I have access to mount the CMG volume, I'd be able to do that directly from this interface. But since I have the proxy already living here, I can actually just view the proxy. I can view it down here. I can view it in full screen. And that shows me exactly what I have for video that's available for me in the full res file size if I wanted to mount that volume for access of the full res media. In the same way, you'll see here that if I go into the admin console, or the admin FastTracker interface here, you'll see that my catalogs now include this demo catalog, and refreshing that shows me the 4 assets that I've just indexed. Now on to the OS 10. You'll see pretty much the same thing on the OS 10 side. I have my FastTracker client. If I open that up and log in and just do the same thing, go to past 10 minutes and see the assets that have been brought up here. Now this says that I don't have the proxy mounted locally here because I don't have any volumes mounted locally here, whereas on the Windows side I think you saw that the proxy was in fact showing up green. So that means that the proxy volume, or the previews volume, is actually on the desktop here, and it is because I can see an underlined link to the preview or proxy clip for this clip, and if I click on that, it'll open that up. It'll show me that proxy clip, or that preview clip that I have locally mounted. Now if I have access to mount the volume that lives underneath, or the volume where this file lives, then this will show up a little bit differently. This will show up in blue instead of gray. And I can show you sort of what that would look like simply by going to the admin console for the server that I'm working with. Opening that up, and since I know this is on the CMG volume, all I have to do is add permissions for my local Mac here, which I know is called user, which I know is called New Pro 2. I'll add that. I'll add this user with write access, so now someone has permission to mount this volume. And as soon as I go back to my FastTracker here, you'll see if I do a refresh. So that showed up as blue because the CMG volume, where this is primarily lives, as I said before, is now available for me on the desktop. So all I have to do here is hit mount through the FastTracker interface, and that CMG volume shows up on my desktop. Now I can open this up full res and see the full res media of that. But in the meantime, I could have always just hit the preview here and full screened that as well. But this gives me the opportunity to now drag it out of this interface into whatever application that I want, whether it be Final Cut Pro X or Resolve or Avid, or with Adobe, of course, we have a separate panel that we use that's more integrated. But this shows you sort of the idea of getting access to those assets, finding those assets, and being able to open them up based on the catalog, based on the indexing time, and things like that. So I'll close this up for this particular portion of just the install and initial configuration and quick start for the product, and then I'll get into a little bit more of the administration side in the next video.